Hey guys, I'm Amy Cornell and I'm your Texas broker for Front Real Estate. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about why I encourage clients to use one of my preferred lenders versus somebody else. So from a customer perspective, the consumer comes in and they think, okay, Amy wants me to use this guy. She's got to be getting something, right? She's got to have some sort of agreement that for every fifth deal, they go on this lavish steak dinner together, or they have some sort of dollar amount kicked back. She wouldn't be so insistent that I call one of the guys on her list if there wasn't something coming back to her. And that may be true for some companies. I will tell you, for us, that's not true. We don't have any sort of kickback system or anything like that with any of the lenders that we use. We do have some advertising that we do with lenders from time to time, but it's a very different program than, hey, if you close 5 deals with me, I get a $500 check. There's nothing like that. Really, the whole reason why we are so insistent that, hey, I really think you need to call one of our lender partners is from a quality control perspective. I just don't know those other guys, and I don't know what the experience has been. And I'll tell you, from working with a lot of sellers and seeing lenders on the buy side, man, it's really easy to get involved with somebody who is not super high quality. I look at it as, hey, you've got me, you've got Front, you've got whatever agent you picked, and hopefully that is a really good situation. Well, the only way that I'm able to keep that quality up is to make sure that you're working with a really quality lender too. So I really start with that of like, hey, this isn't something that is a paid for. These are guys that have proven themselves deal after deal after deal, because I tell people all the time, it takes at least 2 deals to get on my list, and it takes about half of one to get off. If there is any sort of bad dealing, any sort of even mistake, I can't afford to let another consumer potentially have that situation again, and so I'm going to pull you off the list until such time that you can prove to me whatever happened wrong got fixed. Okay, so it is a really big deal to earn your way onto whatever realtor you're using preferred list. And as a realtor, if you don't have a preferred list yet, go to your broker. They should have one for Front agents. There's one out on our private web portal, so you can see that out there. But if you're not somebody that has it, you need to start interviewing lenders and start getting your list together. Start figuring out, doing one deal here, doing another deal here, getting introductions, really figuring out who are those really quality and aligned lenders that will align with your business and really help your clients leave with such a great overall experience, because there's just only so much you can do, right? There's this whole other lending side that is going to be a big part of their transaction, and it's going to be a big effect for them for the next 30 years as far as making sure that they're coming in at the right price point for their family, all these things. And so they need to make sure that they're working with somebody really quality on that side. So I am relatively insistent that, hey, I need you to, at minimum, call one of my guys and get a second opinion. Okay, I'm okay. If you think, Ditech or Lending Tree or something like that is the way that you need to go because you're going to get a better deal, that's fine. But call and at least get a quote. And I'll tell you what happens most of the time is that once they call and get a quote, it's just like thinking that they're going to close with an online real estate agent. When they actually see what they're getting for what price, they're like, oh yeah, I'll just work with them. Okay, so it is really important for that. I do have very high expectations for my lenders. I have some healthy competition too. So you heard me say, hey, call off of one of Amy's guys, one of the list. So when I very first got into the business, I was pretty green and I met a great lender and we worked together for a long time, and it was a really great situation. He's a very good lender that did mostly A paper. So that means like, hey, if you've got good credit, if you've got good income, man, he's going to really do great on fees and rate and really push it through the underwriting system very easily. What I realized though was that if it got anywhere into the gray area of not so A paper, maybe B or C paper, there was a quick turn of, gosh, we just need to wait a little bit to get that credit score higher, or hey, could we get mom and dad to co-sign because we may need some additional income on this. And while that was the answer for his shop, what I learned was that was not the same rule book that every company was playing by. And I guess I just really thought that in the beginning. I thought that like there was some big book of mortgage somewhere and you would just flip to the page and say, yep, they're good. Like their credit and their income, it's all cool. Like they're good to go. But what rules are for one company are not necessarily the same rules for every single other company. What I also learned was on pricing that can be different, but overall, again, from a healthy competition perspective, we do see very consistent pricing between the companies based on that individual consumer's experience. So I'm not as much of, hey, one consumer needs to call 5 different guys and get quotes. If they want to do a couple, maybe 3, okay. But ultimately, I'm not as concerned about that. But what I need as a lender, or sorry, as an agent, is I need several lenders on my team so that if I have somebody that is not just a straight in the box person, that I can call around to see who that might fit best with. I also think that each lender should have kind of their favorite of what they work with, right? So if there's somebody that, man, they just love working with veterans, it pumps them up, they're happy to help, they know all the ins and outs of VA, man, I want to work with them on my veterans. Same thing if I have somebody that really loves a rehab loan, or really, man, they really love high net worth individuals, and it's not intimidating at all to see tax returns like this. They can totally take it, dissect it, get it pushed out. Each lender should have a little bit of their flavor. And so when I meet with a lender and they say, oh no, I'm good, just send me whatever. I do it all awesome. Okay. Because I don't think I do it all awesome from a real estate side. I think that almost diminishes what I do well for me to say that I do it all awesome. So I really want those lenders to be real with me. Like, talk to me. What does your company do well? What do you do well? What do you want me to send you? Because I want to wrap those up with a bow and get them in your lap, because that's going to be a great experience for that consumer. I don't want it something that, oh, this just doesn't fit quite right. And so that's what I learned from that very first, hurrah in real estate, was that when I was meeting with people and saying, hey, here's my card, here's his card, call him first, because man, if we can't do the loan, like, I hate for you to get too far down this path, let's see what he says. And when it was a no, and I was like, okay, well, man, I'm going to follow up with you in a year. Well, that sucked, because really somebody else could have done the loan right then. And that would have been the right thing for that family too, because they needed a home right then. So that's why I have multiple people on my list. That's why I would encourage you to have multiple people on your list. It is not because I don't love all of those guys. They are all really, really strong lenders, and I have so much trust and respect for them. But I also do think it is important to have several options for the consumer to choose from. That being said, I also think the consumer should pick one of those guys for what I was saying earlier, but also because they know our system. So one of the things that I have in my system is that when a consumer calls to get pre-qualified, they're going to get as much information as they need so that they're comfortable and they can really do the pre-qualification letter and all of that. But not just the pre-qualification letter. I also want to get a fee estimate. And a lot of lenders don't love that I ask for that up front. But here's why I ask for it. A fee estimate is going to be something that will show what their based on what purchase price, what their estimated cash to close would be, and what their estimated payment is going to be. Now, they can't say for sure, right? Because we don't know what taxes and insurance are going to be, and we don't know what the rate is going to be, because they can't lock in that rate until after that property gets under contract. But at least we have a guide. We have something that they're sitting down with. And even though a lot of the lenders do go over it with people verbally or those kind of things, a lot of times they don't really just sit down and look at those numbers, and sometimes they can forget. And so I don't want for the situation to be that I go out and show somebody a whole bunch of houses, go under contract, then they get the initial disclosures and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, right? Instead, I want to be brought along. I want to see those numbers up front too. I want to make sure that we're good, because when we walk into a house that's $250,000 and they're like, oh my gosh, can we afford this? I just don't know. This seems like so much house. Well, I'm able to quickly pull up and say, hey, remember when your lender sent you this? This is what it would be down. This is what it would be per month. Is that still comfortable for you? I'm like, oh, yeah, that is what we said we would do. This house can be that? Yeah, totally can. So it just makes the whole process go better, and it puts where I am not having to guess what those numbers are or pull up an app. Like I used to use the Zillow mortgage app all the time. I'd pull it up and I'd try to put in, okay, well, if you did 20% down and if the rate was this, or if you do 5% down, you're going to have mortgage insurance and I'm not sure what that is because I don't know what your credit is and I don't know, and I was having to try to guess all these things. That's not on me. I shouldn't have to do that, right? Instead, these lender partners will do it. You just have to ask. And so that's one of the procedures that we just have already set up. I wanted to show you kind of what this looks like for me, or what I'm talking about on here. And this is the initial fees worksheet. So it's just going to be a simple document. It's going to show what their closing costs are, what the potential loan amount would be, what the estimated funds from the borrower would be, and what the estimated monthly payment is going to be. This is not a national form, so it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. Like I said, the rate is not locked in. So we all have to agree on that. And I tell my clients that too. I'm like, look, don't think that you're going to hold them to that because that is not locked in. But at least we have an idea. So that is a big part of the process for me that really helps me to close more business, to really make that consumer have a much more comfortable situation all the way through. The other thing that I want to make sure with my lender partners is that they do have an option for full pre-approval for those consumers that need it. So pre-qualification, do y'all know what that, it's not a whole lot, right? It's about 10 minutes on the phone saying, hey, where do you work? How much do you make? Where does your husband work? How much does he make? What are y'all social security numbers? So that I can pull credit. Okay, there's not just a whole lot of behind the scenes digging on it. Full pre-approval is they're getting their tax returns and bank statements and everything to the lender before we ever find a house. Okay. And so that if there is somebody that is marginal on credit approval, that has had a weird employment thing happening, or that has had, there's something going on, maybe they had a foreclosure years ago and they're nervous. I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to go through for full pre-approval before we go and look at houses. That is going to make it's not just a prequel, their pre-approval will be much stronger because really all we need at that point is the property, and then we can slide it in and it's good. We've already had it looked at by underwriting and all those things, and it's ready to go. So I do want to make sure that that is available for anybody that is kind of on the bubble. The other thing is closing times. I want everything to close within 30 days. I don't think that it's appropriate to let it linger past that without some sort of reason. Occasionally there are reasons, maybe we're doing something rural or we're doing something different. I'm okay with that. I love just those open lines of communication with the lender partners that I'm working with. Also, what the client ultimately needs to understand is that if we are submitting their offer and they are working with somebody that's an online broker or something like that, then it's going to be a little bit harder for that seller to have confidence in their offer. Versus when I submit an offer for somebody that is working with one of my lender partners, I'm able to really tell that listing agent and seller this story of how we have worked together so successfully so many times that I know that that's what it's going to be like on this transaction too. And I know that we're going to get it closed on time because that lender can't afford to lose me, right? They need me. And so they're going to do what it takes to get it done. Now, y'all know that doesn't mean like, oh, this guy has a 500 credit score and he's just going to sail through. No, it's not that. But if there's something that, hey, we forgot to order, appraisal we forgot to order the appraisal and now we need to pay a rush fee. It's those kind of things that are going to get done so that way we are closing on time. And it's just so important in these transactions to make sure that all consumers are having that really warm and fuzzy and wrapping up that transaction in such just a strong way to really get them set on that path for home ownership. So I really encourage you to find your people, find your lender partners, commit to them, and really ask your people, say, hey, I would really prefer if you would at least call and get a second opinion from one of my guys because, man, I really believe this is going to make your transaction so different to work with one of ours versus an outside party.